Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into an incredibly powerful narrative framework called The Last Light, the architecture of resilience. Now, this isn't just your standard story. It's literally a blueprint for overcoming intense personal hardship. By unpacking the specific cues hidden in this source material, we're going to explore the exact anatomy of how someone actually moves from total darkness all the way to absolute triumph. Let me ask you something. Have you ever felt just completely lost? Totally surrounded by that overwhelming kind of silence where your biggest goals feel impossibly far away? Honestly, we've all been there. Well, today we're tracking the journey of a protagonist who starts off right in that exact space of feeling totally adrift, and we'll see exactly how he architects his own way out. The source material kicks off with this incredibly moody, highly atmospheric scene. Just picture it, a young man walking entirely alone through a completely quiet city at night. The streets are totally empty, the rain is just pouring down, and you can practically see those glowing neon lights reflecting off the wet pavement. It's a beautifully stark image. And then we get hit with this powerful thought. Sometimes life becomes so silent that we forget our own strength. It really sets a deliberate, empathetic pace, doesn't it? Because the silence here, it's not peaceful. It's heavy. It's the crushing weight of isolation. But right when it feels the heaviest, the narrative drops its fundamental premise. A small light can change everything. Even in the absolute darkest moments of that rain-slicked city, a single spark exists. What the source material is really telling us here is that total darkness, it's an illusion. You actually don't need some massive, blinding spotlight to find your way out of hardship. You just need one tiny, persistent light to kickstart the whole process of change. Okay, let's dive into the sheer weight of the struggle. So we move from those abstract, empty city streets straight into the messy reality of the protagonist's life. Picture him in a small room, completely surrounded by unfinished dreams. And this highlights some severe friction. On one hand, his heart just refuses to stop believing. He's got dreams way bigger than his problems. But on the flip side, we see the crushing reality of his daily challenges and the constant doubt from people around him telling him to just give up. It's essentially a visual representation of those massive internal and external battles we all fight when we're trying to overcome hardship. The resistance is just immense. But then we reach a true turning point, the pivotal decision. And just like that, the whole atmosphere shifts. Imagine a bright, golden sunrise suddenly pouring right into that room. The protagonist stands up and decisively slams his notebook shut. The text hits us with this. He would no longer wait for the perfect moment. He would create his own future. This is absolutely crucial. It's the moment he finally crosses the threshold. He walks outside with this totally newfound confidence, realizing that waiting around for external doubts to magically silence themselves, that's a trap. The power of choice is entirely in his hands. He has to be the architect of his own way forward. Which brings us to the actual journey of resilience, the real, gritty work. He steps outside and boom, we hit the road of trials. We are straight into the messy middle. And this brilliantly illustrates the real reality of the journey. Let's be honest, success isn't some overnight miracle, right? It is a gritty, chronological, repeating process. First you're learning, then you're working hard, then, inevitably, you're failing, and then you're trying again. His success definitely was not built in a single day. In fact, the text actually breaks this journey down into its exact ingredients. Step 1, thousands of small efforts. Step 2, countless failures. And I really want you to notice that failures are listed here as a required ingredient. They're not a roadblock, they're part of the recipe. It completely normalizes the struggle. And finally, step 3, the courage to continue. Honestly, you simply cannot have the transformation without surviving those failures first. Which really allows us to define the core concept straight from the text's overarching message. Resilience is exactly this, the courage to continue through thousands of small efforts and countless failures. When you look at this definition, I want you to connect it right back to your own capacity to endure, because resilience isn't about never falling down. No way. It's literally an architectural structure built entirely out of all the times you actively chose to stand back up. And that incredibly hard work leads us to the ultimate transformation. Flashing forward years later, we see that exact same young man. But now, he's standing on a rooftop, just smiling, overlooking this beautiful, sprawling city. And it prompts this incredibly profound realization. Because the greatest victories are born from the hardest battles. By architecting his own resilience, he didn't just save himself from that tiny, suffocating room, he actually became a beacon to inspire everyone else around him. The extreme depth of his initial hardship literally created the soaring height of his ultimate victory. So, the crucial point is, how do we actually apply this? Let's talk about how to believe, work, and rise. The source material closes out with some incredibly hopeful, cinematic imagery, and we really want to bring that triumphant golden sunrise atmosphere directly into your reality. So, first takeaway, never ever underestimate a small step. Remember those thousands of small efforts we talked about? They compound over time. Second, refuse to give up. Even if the odds seem completely stacked against you, your stubborn refusal to quit is hands down the absolute most vital asset you possess. The narrative finally ends with a definitive 3-word call to action: believe, work, rise. I just want to let the cinematic simplicity of that sink in for a second. It's so powerful. First, you absolutely must believe internally, regardless of whatever external doubt is shouting at you. Then, you've got to put in the work and push through those inevitable failures. And finally, as a completely inevitable result of those first 2 steps, you rise. So we've unpacked the whole blueprint. We've seen firsthand how a single, tiny spark in an empty city can architect a breathtaking victory. But, a blueprint is totally useless unless you actually start building. So I'm going to leave you with this final, absolutely vital question. What will your first small step be today? Seriously, don't wait around for the perfect moment. It doesn't exist. Just take that step, embrace the messy journey, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.